We have come out of a COVID hiatus to welcome back the 14th Honolulu Surf Film Festival at the Doris Duke Theatre, Honolulu Museum of Art. The opening night began with a reception in the Loose Pavilion, which included live music by Temple Waves and a buffet dinner by the Homa Cafe. Special guest surfer Tom Curren was on hand to field questions after the movie. Halona Norton-Westbrook, the museum director, welcomed the crowd back to the only surf film festival that runs for a whole month. Doris Duke Theatre manager Sarah Fang and her committee chose the Sonny Miller classic Searching for Tom Curren, remastered by Derek Hoffman of Nalu TV, as the opening night film.
Of surfing to have that happen. So thank you so much for being here and supporting that. I also want to give a big shout out and appreciation to Aqua Aston Hotels, who are our sponsor for this event. We truly couldn't do this without you. And speaking of people that we can't do things without, I have to talk about Sarah Fang. And we are so honored and just so incredibly thankful to have her wisdom and talent guiding us in everything that we do here in the theater. And she's put together an incredible committee to help with this particular film festival, and I'd love to invite Sarah up now to talk to you a little bit more about that.
I'm so happy to see so many of you come back for this and to really enjoy watching the beauty of surf cinema together here in person in a theater. So thank you all so much for all supporting this, so thank you. And I could not do all of that without the help of our committee. Jon Santos, right here, yay! And of course, Crystal Thornburg-Homcy, right over here. And we also have a third member of our committee is Martina Durand, but we're really excited to have her help us curate this amazing program. Our graphics this year was designed by Manny Aloha. I think Manny's here in the house. Tomorrow night will be the start of our Honolulu Surf Film Festival 2023 Shorts program. And we have an amazing lineup of shorts. I think Randy Rarick is in the house. Yes. Amazing. He did an amazing short film called Summer of '69, Prepared to be Educated, about board design from 1969. Also included in that is a short film called Jocko, and I think Jocko is in the house. Alright, and one last shout out that I forgot to do in the beginning. Gary Keeley, where are you for the Surf News Network? Thank you. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to Crystal Thornburg-Homcy.
And I'd like to introduce the amazing Derek Hoffman, who helped in getting this film back up and running, and after so many years being able to honor Sonny Miller. Thank you to Derek, a legendary cinematographer and born and raised in Hawaii. And I'd like to introduce Derek Hoffman.
All right, aloha everybody. Just to reiterate a couple things, thank you all for coming out tonight. We're honored to be a part of the 14th Annual Honolulu Surf Film Festival, and I want to thank Sarah and everyone who's put this on. But I want to just thank everyone that's coming out for to watch this iconic movie that our really good friend Sonny Miller made back in the 90s, Searching for Tom Curren. I was very fortunate and blessed to be one of the camera operators on these films with Sonny. This film speaks for itself. It's Tom Curren. It's basically the 5 years that we filmed the search films. It's like the best of Tom's waves. It's a short and sweet film. It's about 38 minutes. You know, a lot of people haven't seen this movie. As Crystal mentioned, it was only released on VHS 26 years ago. So it was our honor to be able to bring this film back, remastered it in memory of our good friend Sonny Miller, who's not with us. We have some photos out in the lobby for you that none of you that knew Sonny. He was a legend, cinematographer, filmmaker, photographer, TV host, and just pretty much all. If you knew Sonny, he was your best friend. And it's also in honor of Tom Curren's incredible surfing. I meet a lot of young kids, great. Chloe and Dino have never seen this movie. I'm like, wow. Okay, it's kind of like not watching Michael Jordan if you're a basketball player, in my opinion. So excited for everyone to be out here tonight. I'm going to stop talking, but we are going to do a little talk story after the film with Dave Homcy, myself, and Tom. So stick around for that. It shouldn't be too long, short and sweet. Anyway, one time again. This is to honor Sonny, and Sonny loved surf cinema. If you watch the end of the credits here, it's going to, Sonny words, bring back surf cinema. So all of you coming out tonight to enjoy this movie means a lot to us. So thank you very much. Enjoy the movie, and aloha.
First of all, thank you guys for bringing this back. Sonny was an incredible human. He's the guy who ran up to me on the cliff at Piahi and stuck a camera in my hands and said, "Hold this, I'll be right back, I gotta get more film." And I didn't know who he was, and he's like, I'm like, "Hey, wait, what's your name?" He's like, "Sonny Miller." And I'm like, "This is Sonny Miller? Like the guy who did all the search films?" "Yeah." And at that moment, I was just like in awe, I was awestruck. I'm like, oh my God, it's my hero. And from that point on, Sonny and I just had this great relationship, and I worked with him all over the world. He took me under his wing, and just an incredible human, and I'm so thankful that Derek has done what he's done now to bring this back. And Tom, it's always been a pleasure seeing you all over the world too, and you know, you're an incredible human. It's great to be up here with you guys, and you guys want to say anything? I just thank you for being here. I'll ask a few questions, but do you have anything you want to say?
I want to thank you, Dave, and Derek and Sarah for having us here. Thank you all for coming and celebrating surf filmmaking and Sonny Miller in particular. And we miss him, and we want to shout out for Nalu Films and what they're doing.
Yeah, Malo, well said. Yeah, Dave summed it up really well about Sonny Miller. He was an amazing human being. Some of the trips that Tom and I were blessed to be on, like that Mozambique trip, you know, we were on a sailboat for 6 days sailing and just seeing the land not moving. And you know, it's easy to get some negative thoughts. What are we doing here? Can we go home? Did Derek Hines send us another goose chase? But Sonny always had that mindset of positivity and smiling, and I think he helped transcend a lot of our trips to kind of get through some tough patches. Obviously back in the 90s there was no internet, there was no forecasting, you just kind of, you know, hey, let's go in this window and hopefully we score. We were obviously very blessed to score some really good waves on the search. Anyway, I want to ask Tom a question, and I asked him this other day, Tom, for you, what's kind of a special part of Hawaii that is that memory that you kind of mentioned to me about that, you know, kind of your first opportunities in the ocean? Is there anything you want to talk about that?
Well, some of my best memories were in 1970 when we came here on vacation, and I kept surfing. I got a board and brought it back to California and kept surfing. So, so that was very important for me.
Yeah, and you were mentioning that Makaha, right, was one of your first opportunities to catch a wave. Do you remember like that experience, or how old you were, or you were? I know you were with your dad. Did you have any recollection on that?
That was I don't know what beach it was, but it was around there, somewhere around some kind of whitewater waves. You know? I remember it was with the Trent family. We were with them, and Anna Trent was the one who was showing me how to surf. So that was really cool.
So Anna Trent gave you some pointers back in the day. I didn't know that. That's good info.
Hey Tom, what was one of your what was of that entire film? If you could say, what was one of the moments of that film? One of the highlights or the trips, like maybe the bow on the fish or any of those. I don't know. What was your favorite part of that journey?
Well, that was filmed around over like about a 3 year years. Probably the best time, I guess, overall would have been that when we were at Jeffreys Bay the first time, and we got to stay there for about a month, and that would probably be the biggest highlight for me.
Yeah, speaking of that trip, you rode a lot of different boards back in the day. You were, I know Derek Hine was kind of bringing you a bunch of different boards to try. Was there ever any particular board you felt like you were attached to? You seem to just kind of be able to surf on anything and from any shaper, really. Is there anything you can mention about just the board design and all the different shapers you got to try different crafts?
The time at Jeffreys was really cool because Derek knew all the shapers around, and he had a bunch of boards, and I tried a bunch, and I remember the best board was a Peter Daniels, and I only got to surf it on one wave because it broke on that waves, and it was like a really good board. But there were others. Mark Ravitch his board was one of my favorites.
Derek. Yes, sir. How did you get into this? How did you get into surf cinematography to begin with? What drug you into this world?
Interesting. Well, I grew up in Waimanalo, and then my dad moved to Hawaii Kai when I was young, so Sandy Beach was right there. So at a young age, I was kind of turned into like Sandy's, short break, and just body surfing, boogie boarding, just experimenting. And I had actually a good friend of mine, Richard Chesky, gave me this little yellow Minolta Happy Snap. And I remember, because he worked at Fox Photo, and I remember just taking it out and just clicking on it. And he was like, "Well, Brad, you got some pretty good shots in it." And I was like, "Oh yeah, this is kind of cool." But that was actually my first time ever shooting. And then I was very blessed because a good friend of mine I grew up with, Mike Prickett, we went to high school together. Mike really influenced me a lot. I think I hurt my leg or something one day, and he's like, "Oh, Hoffman, you should try shooting with my camera." And back then you had Century, like manual focus lenses, and I was like, "Oh, this is kind of tough, trying to get a shot in focus." And then he's like, "You should try a housing." So I swam out with one of his water housings, and from that moment on, I kind of was clicked into the water photography, and moved out to the North Shore at Prickett in the 80s, and kind of got more into motion. Got actually one of the first 8mm video cameras in a housing, and just kind of honed my craft, so to speak, out of the North Shore. I was blessed to work with a lot of great filmmakers, Bystrom, Dietrich, etc. And then I met Miller. Actually I met Miller at the Gotcha Pro in Sandy's, behind that. But anyway, I was so blessed to meet Sonny, and I'll never forget, he called me and goes, "Hoffman, yeah, you want to go into Search?" And this was after the Search one, when Tom and them scored good J-Bay, and he had an opportunity for getting another cameraman in. And I was just like, "Oh, yeah, where are we going?" He goes, "Well, here, in 3 months with Curren." I'm like, "Sign me up." I hang up the phone, and someone's like, "How much is he going to pay you?" I'm like, "Maybe." Like, really? No, this is a lifetime. So back then it was obviously nothing about money. It was just the scope of being able to travel around the world and document some of the best surfers in the world with a guy like Sonny, as you know, he's traveled. So that's how I got into it, Dave. Thank you.
Same for me. Sonny kind of did the same thing for me. Let's go. And it was one of the best experiences. I mean, I miss the guy every day. An incredible human. Elvis. How many times did he dress up like Elvis on your trips?
Yeah, no, I think it was, I don't actually know. We did actually, we went to a disco party once. But I don't think he had an Elvis costume. It was a disco. Yeah, right.
I felt like every trip I went on, he had an Elvis costume.
Yeah.
Remember that, Derek?
Yeah, Miller was a costume master, like Captain Miller, and he was, like we were saying, had such a vibrant personality, just very outgoing, gets along with anyone, and he made it fun to be, some of those trips we were on a boat for like 3 weeks. You don't really touch the land, so you can only have so many bintangs where you have to bring some other excitement. So Sonny had a lot of excitement.
He had a lot of bintangs, for sure. And another thing I admired about him, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but you would get on an airplane with him and you would sit down and he would just go instantly, the whole flight, gone. I don't know how he did it. I don't know what that guy had. It wasn't drugs either. There was no Ambien back then. It was just straight up, he had this ability to just knock out. And he would be on fire the moment we hit the ground, full on.
Yeah, I think it was he had a lot to do at the ticket counter. That was always a big,
he did.
Physically taxing, I guess, too.
Yeah.
He was just resting.
And that smile always just got us through everything.
Yeah, and speaking of those tickets, you normally go to check in, okay, 2 bags, couple board bags. What do you got there? I mean, when we traveled on the search, we had like 10 cases, and it'd always be like extra baggage. It'd be like, oh, you owe us 4,000 rand. I got no money. It was so funny. I'm like, wait, aren't we shooting for Rip Curl? But we never really seemed to have any money, but we kind of pulled it off the whole way. And I think that was a lot to do with Sonny's just attitude, charisma, personality.
Attitude just got us through everything.
Sweet talk to everyone. So, yeah, we got some good stories on Sonny. But
does anybody have questions? Is there any questions from the audience at all?
Hey Derek. Tom, maybe you know this, but Derek, you probably know this. How many waves were ridden in this film?
Randy, that's a great question. In this film, how many waves were ridden? I can't even guess. 300? 400? That's a great question. Did you count them?
178.
Really?
Did you try and count the edit at the end with all the turns?
Yeah. So, and just another thing of the editing, when Sonny edited this movie, he was living in La Costa at the time, and I'll never forget it because back then to edit, you didn't have a computer. I mean, we had the origins of non-linear. I believe it was either the first Adobe Premiere, like 1, or the Media 100. So. That was the first non-linear, but my point was you used to use Betacam deck, so you literally had to put the Betacam deck in and find the shot, whereas now you can find it all digitally, right? Oh, there's this, and that. So it was a lot of work to actually pick out all the best shots off those waves. But that's a great question, Randy. Now I'm going to have to go watch the movie and count all the waves.
Yeah, Randy, that's a good question too, because a lot of times with creative editing, if I'm going into a quality turn and then I do something bad right after, you can just cut it right there.
That's why I asked how many. One other question for Tom. Tom, the only contest that you won here in Hawaii was the Wyland Hawaiian Pro at Haleiwa, and there was footage in the film of that. And it was amazing because my friend John here said he didn't have his OP logo on that board. And what was the story of why you rode that Morris Cole board with no logos?
Thank you, Randy. I get that question before. That was, the stickers didn't show up and the heat was going to start, and I was like, okay. And so I didn't use the stickers, and then after that I thought it was like I was a little bit superstitious about it because I was, I did well in that heat, so I was like, I'll just not put the stickers on, but it was not a good decision, but.
You won that contest in the world title that year, so. Was that?
I have a question back right there.
I got a question. Oh, can I go? Me? Okay, cool. This movie was a really good way to study your style, since it was all you, I noticed that when you're coming down the wave, you do this. You always turn your head away from the most critical part of the wave. You do this quick and 1, you know, and it's a beautiful thing. It's like you're always just like turning away from like the pit or the wave right behind you. You just, and one, are you conscious of that? And two, who is your like most influential surfer maybe that you emulated?
So I would have to check that. I guess maybe, you know, my eyes were sensitive, so any kind of white water, like. Hair, I don't know, who knows. And then I really like Rabbit Bartholomew a lot. It's like I got to hang out with him in France a little bit, and so I got just kind of like, I just liked the way he surfed, and he had a, you know, kind of a he had like a combination of aggressive and styles, and that's kind of what I was you know, I thought that was really cool how he did it, and among others, of course.
Thank you.
There was a question in the back.
This is for Tom. This movie is what, 20, 25 years ago? I'm just curious what your days look like now. You know?
They don't look like this. I live in the sort of coastal mountains, kind of about 30 or so miles from the coast, and a real quiet part of the Central Coast, and I'm enjoying that. You know, I prefer being in the ocean all the time, so this is something new. I do a bit of traveling, and still get to travel and surf, and still get to do some of the search type of things.
Do you ever get a chance, or do you know anybody that has a property at the ranch and are able to go down there?
Yes. Yes, I get to go to the ranch sometimes, but I haven't been there for a few years. But it's a great spot. Anybody get to go to the ranch is one of the nicest places to go. Yeah.
Uncrowded.
It's nice. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Tom, what's your favorite surf spot in the world?
Well, I would have to pick one. I think I would say Sunset Beach, just because it's, you know, it's got, it's challenging, and it has, you know, kind of different mood for different swell direction, and I like the, you know, it can get crowded, but I like the crowd. You know, there's kind of a, you know, there's all kinds of people surfing it. So if I had to pick one, I think that'd be Sunset.
Thanks.
Back here. Deep.
Yeah. Hey Tom, I know music's a big part of your life, and I was curious who picked the songs for the soundtrack. I love that soundtrack. I remember I had the VHS tape, and I actually recorded it on my little tape recorder. Surfing, or before I would go surfing. And I was curious, who picked the songs, and was that your inspiration, or Sonny's, or mine?
Yeah, the songs, that was Sonny who had all that. But yeah, it's a tape recorder is a little machine. So I'm thinking it's got a tape. You press the record button. They wind up like that. Yeah, the Sonny was, yeah, he was hands-on with that too. So he did all the editing and found the music, found the bands, and you know, a lot of them were Australian bands, and so that was pretty cool. Like, we got to meet a lot of those guys.
Yeah, and following up on that question, just a little factoid for you. The first song It's called Magic Man by Pico. He was an Australian musician, really good friend of Derek Hine. That song was made for this movie, the first opening song, Magic Man. There's African beats in there. I'm not sure which segment, but we were in Africa and Sonny bought a cassette tape, put it in there, and part of that's in there. We didn't clear that, but it's okay. But we did clear, and there's another Arno Kimsey. So Arno was a musician who actually created some original, some of the music is actually original. The opening is Arno. And Tom actually played the drums on some of the tracks. Not so much, I think, in this particular film, but some of the other Search films, Tom played the drums, and I think he even played guitar in some of the songs. So Sonny was really good at just kind of connecting the right people, and it seems like people kind of gravitated to him. So that's a little backstory on that.
How about the bagpipes?
Bagpipes never fail. That's the thing. I guess that's, you know, I mean, I was like bagpipes, right? But then, yeah, once you hear those bagpipes, you know something, you know, it's like, whoa, bagpipes.
Yeah, that band is actually three brothers. I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but it's just another really eclectic style of music, and that Sonny was really good at just kind of piecing them together with the footage.
Don, what range of boards are you riding today? What kind of boards are you riding today? What length and shapes and all?
So I have this 5.5 that I really like. It's really flat and thin. It's got a lot of edge on it, and it's a little softer in the front part. I like the edge in the back because it gives you that extra speed, and then the front part, you don't really want the edge because it actually does something weird. Like it kind of projects you out like that too much, so you can't really hold in. So if you put a little softer edge in the front, it's a little better.
So 5.5 is your daily rider?
No, I have, I'd say sort of have a quiver.
Yeah.
Pick and choose. I got a big paddle, or like a 12-foot paddle that I reshaped. It broke in half, so I glued it back together and then reshaped it into like a standard surfboard rail. And that's at the glass factory right now, so I'm looking forward to getting that, so that'll be fun.
This is a question for all three of you, actually. How do you feel that surf filmmaking, surf films, and surf cinematography has changed since this film was released, and how do you feel about it? And are you still influenced and inspired and excited for coming to the theater and watch new surf films?
The new surf films are more exciting for me. This is, you know, it's kind of, it's a bit much, you know. It's kind of.
Sorry, very loaded question, but.
But surf cinema is I think where it's at, and you know, surf movies coming to the theater again. I think it's kind of happening, you know. And there's so much good new stuff out there too.
Yeah, I'm just happy to see people back in the theaters again. It's really great to have this experience, and I'm up and down. I still love shooting film so much that all the digital stuff out there these days, sometimes I look at it and you know, and the stories are great, but the imagery to me, I think a lot of guys are doing stuff with digital that just kind of takes away from the beauty of the film. Like, I don't want to get too technical or into it, but I really just miss film, and I want to bring film back as much as possible. That's kind of what I would love to see more of. I know it's hard, but I've done it, and I'm still doing it a little bit here and there, so just trying to keep that ball rolling.
Yes, and on that note, we have an archiving company, because back in the day when we shot a lot of film, you had to like hand, you know, load the camera, so you're actually touching the film. You had to load it, whether it was a daylight load, or you're in a bag, and you could get anywhere from 3 to 6 minutes on your reel. So, you know, now you can shoot forever. Forever. So back when we shot these films, you were really limited on how much time you could shoot. So you weren't just shooting everything, you were very selective. I mean, obviously if Tom's on a wave, you're rolling on everything, but you were very selective on who and what you shot. And it was a lot harder, as we were talking about, to edit back then, because you didn't have the phones or computer editing, and it was just the infant stage of nonlinear editing, and it was really tape to tape. And so, a little side story, when we would go on the search, you know, we'd have a Rip Curl backpack full of film, and that thing weighed 50 pounds or more. And that was like, that's the goal, because you have to take this film, you got to get through all the x-rays, get it to, let's say you're going to Africa, and shoot that film, and you may get some of the best waves ever, but you don't even know, because you can't watch it back. It's on, it looked good through your viewfinder, you're like, hopefully.
Sometimes it looked good through the viewfinder, depending on the camera.
Yeah, so.
Other times you're like,
it was always this hit or miss, wondering did you even really get the footage. And I just remember one story in JBA, it was the second year when Brock Little was there. And I'll never forget it, because me and Brock were traveling back, and Brock's like, I got it. Because he was like, who's taking the bag of film? I mean, it's like, that's it, right? That's the most important thing. And anyway, I just thinking of Brock a bit on that. But I remember Brock, you know, his arms are flexing. He's like, I got it. And he's like through the x-ray machine. Or like, we couldn't let anyone x-ray it. We had let him look at the film through a bag and feel it. So if I think about like today with the digital, which I love, like Dave's saying, it's beautiful, but it all kind of looks similar. This film, as you notice, the looks are all over the place, because you could have different film stocks, right? Maybe you exposed it a little improperly, whatever. It just, everything had a little feel to it. What do we call it? Celluloid? Film celluloid. You know, and on a quick note, so what I was going to say, following up on Dave's question about this film, it's cost prohibitive to have these old movies and or tapes and look at them. So part of our mission was to actually start an archiving company to be able to take all this old footage, turn it digital, and more specifically with the film, we can now take the old film, so you can actually touch the film Sonny touched, load in the camera, load it in, and turn it into a digital file. So the filmmaking, I believe, is the same as far as trying to capture these incredible images and angles. Obviously, you have drones and different things, but I feel the art of filmmaking, as Dave would know, is just, it's kind of a lost art. So it's nice to see these types of films.
It is, and I'm really looking forward to diving back into that archive. I mean, I did trips, numerous trips with Sonny throughout Indonesia that has never seen the light of day. That hopefully one day we'll be able to bring those images back to all you guys and edit something together that'll be fun. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to diving into that soon or whenever possible. But yeah, there's a lot of footage out there of a crew of incredible surfers back to back to back to back to back that has never seen the light of day. So,
yeah, that's a good note.
That's going to be fun.
It is fun, and Sonny's archive is vast. I mean, obviously there's incredible footage of Tom and the search, but you know, you got the origins of foil boarding, tow in with Laird and Double D, and just there's so many historical stories. That's part of our goal is to bring a lot of these back. So anyway, thanks, Crystal.
One more question. Do you guys all have a favorite Sonny Miller quote? Or just a quick like memory of something? Just to honor him for tonight.
Oh, I got one. He would always make fun of people who were like less sort of, I guess, positive, as he would say, oh, it'll never work. So that was, he would always say that, it'll never work. Because he was the guy who was really into making it work.
He never gave up. He never ever, you know, it didn't matter. The camera could be just fried film coming out of the sides of it. Like, he would figure out a way. I remember dismantling something with a captain on one of the boats, and him and the captain just got in there and just ripped the thing apart and figured it out and put it back together. And this is an old film camera too, like old motors and trippy stuff that I'd never seen before. And Miller always just had, you're right, he was the most positive guy. But of a quote or something, a memory. I remember standing on top of Krakatoa's cinder cone. He was dressed like Elvis. I wish I had that photo. He's just dressed like Elvis, and he's hitting golf balls, trying to hit the boat that was anchored down below. That was Sonny. He was just always out. He was a pirate at heart, 100%. He could drink 20 bintangs and he'd still be going. It didn't matter. He was good fun, always.
He was good fun, and I kind of nicknamed him MacGyver Miller for that particular instance. I remember we were in J-Bay one time, and I was like, some wire popped out of something. He's like, don't worry, we're gonna go to the hardware store, buy a soldering iron, and you know, he could fix anything anywhere in the world. Like I can just have so many different thoughts of him late at night, whether it's in Claw's house one time when we were having a spring load in one of the Bolexes. He had a very analytical mind. His father, by the way, Bud, he worked for NASA as an engineer. So maybe that was part of his.
Yeah, he had that DNA for sure, because he could fix anything. He really could, and he wouldn't give up until it was right.
I think we have a question over here, Buzzy.
What influence did skateboarding have in your career? Were you ever able to go into any of the drainage ditches over here, like wallows or uluwatus? And do you remember what type of skateboard you rode?
Yes, skateboarding in the sort of mid to late 70s in our area was a lot about the longer boards and Sims. And he was, you know, kind of sponsoring a lot of he had a team, and a lot of my friends were on that team. And we used to go up to this place called the T-Bowl. It was a giant reservoir. It was like a pool, but it was really big. So we did skate a lot in the summer.
Tom, curious about the competitive side, your competitive nature. 3 world titles, you seem so mellow, low-key, but were you born with an innate competitiveness for a world-class, athlete, or was there a lot of nurturing? And I was curious also, how did that stack up to your more soulful self-expression, love, just pure love for the sport? So the self-expression versus the competitive. Did you nurture both of those? Did you have to work on both of those?
I guess the competitive part would have been from like junior lifeguards and swimming, high school swimming, and then being able to compete at surfing and do well. That kind of, it helps. I got good results around 1977. Started to do well, and so I was focused more on that. As far as like style, technique, I was working on that too. Just kind of sort of keep everything where it's supposed to be, I guess.
Thank you.
Go ahead. I got a 2-part question to Tom. So Tom, how has the gift of surfing blessed your life? And another question I wanted to ask is, how did Al Merrick impact you as not just a surfer, but as a person?
Al Merrick was a huge part of why I was able to do really well. Sorry, what was the first part?
So how has the gift of surfing impacted your life? And then how did Al Merrick impact you as a surfer as well as a person?
Yes. So Al Merrick was a huge part of everything. Not only did he shape my boards, he was helping me with managing and stuff. He even glassed a few of my boards. So he was very influential as a person. And surfing as a gift, it's amazing. It's a gift from Hawaii. That's how I look at it. And I always try to remember that.
you have time?
Do you have
one
more
question?
You have
Is that we got time for one more question?
Yeah, one more.
Okay.
I have a question for Tom. For 14 years, we've been to these film festivals where they look back, typically Bud Brown type movies, and always there's your legendary father, Pat Curren, in a lot of these films. I think Benny asked you a question about the influence that maybe Rev Bartholomew had on you. What was it like growing up with a worldwide, pioneering big wave surf, iconic legendary father, and what influence did he have on you in general? Was there a pressure? Was he meant to you a lot? Was it very attached? Was surfing your own thing? I don't know the relationship between you and your dad that way.
The earliest memories, I think, well, some of my very early memories of a scrapbook of Bud Brown film, pics of my dad surfing at the bay, and so there was a famous one with him and Peter Cole and Byron Cole, and my dad comes through the pack, and it was like he did so much like that. I mean, the way I look at it, and maybe other people would see this differently, but my dad, he kind of, this might sound weird, but he kind of showed everybody how to do it, at the bay. That's really what I believe. Not only that, he showed people how to do it with the board building. And he lived his life, true to what he believed, and I guess I would just, people grow up without a father and stuff like that, but I had a father, and just the person, even right up until the end, somebody who you can just, somebody special.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, oh my God, Derek. I'm sorry, it's been a long night. Thank you guys so much for coming here and for doing this. Thank you, that was such a wonderful conversation. And for everyone else, thank you all so much for coming out here tonight and staying. And we hope to see you for the rest of the festival. Have a good night.
Mahalo, Sarah.